in, guys, to another episode of the TBT podcast.
Tyler, Thickman, Tyler,
Jason Dunn, good to have you back on the podcast. Will Shields, welcome into the podcast. Welcome in, everyone, to another great episode of the TPT podcast. Today, we got another great guest from 612 Vikings. This guy loves the NFL, loves talking ball. He's going to talk a little Chiefs ball with us, and we'll get in a little bit into his Vikings and around the league later in the show. But we're here with Dustin Klug. Dustin, how you doing, man? Welcome to the TPT podcast.
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm doing a little better right now, but my Minnesota Vikings, they're 1-1. Things could get worse, but with the recent news of JJ McCarthy kind of going, having that ankle injury and everything, just how the Vikings are, on a year-to-year basis, that's kind of how we're feeling. But aside from that, we're doing pretty good. Great to be on the podcast again, and excited to talk some NFL football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to get, of course, into the Vikings, into some of these injuries just around the league, and really get into the injuries around the Chiefs as well. A lot of injuries so far in the NFL, especially, again, like you said, we're going to get into the Chiefs a little bit. Eagles, Chiefs, like you said, it's kind of a bitter week for both of us. I mean, coming to the week, I'm like, this is going to be tough. I thought the Chiefs could maybe get it done. They kind of gave up those turnovers. They had, a chance to get it on 4th and 1, gave up a field goal. What is kind of the level of concern should Chiefs fans or any really 0-2 team be right now in the NFL?
Yeah, I think starting with the Chiefs, I know they're 0-2 right now, which, among other 0-2 teams, that's not a great boat to be in. But I think if you're a Chiefs fan, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet. Now, if this is, week 10 where you're losing 2 straight games, 3 straight games, whatever, okay, then it's time to panic. But, the Chiefs, they're coming back from 3 straight Super Bowls, maybe not winning the last one against the Eagles, but, 3 straight Super Bowls. And, there's years that a lot of teams start off 5-0, 6-0, 10-0, and, get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. There's teams that start 0-2, 0-3, make the playoffs, make the Super Bowl, whatever it is. So I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet. It's a little too early in the season for anybody to start panicking or hyping up teams. Your team may look good, your team may look bad, it might look pedestrian. Who knows what it is? But as of right now, if you're a Chiefs fan, I think you got to stay calm, cool, collected right now. 0-2, not great. You don't want to be 0-2 in the season right now, but that's kind of what it is. 2 good teams, Chargers, division opponent. It is what it is, kind of toss up, neutral site, whatever. Eagles, they're still pretty good this year. It's not like they have taken a fall off, but the Eagles or the Chiefs, they're taking some major injury hits as well. Rashee Rice, I don't know who else is kind of dealing with injuries, but you got a couple other guys kind of dealing with some stuff too. So if you guys can start healing up a little sooner too, that would help. And I think injuries are just kind of biting the Chiefs and my Minnesota Vikings too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, you have Rice out with suspension, and then you got Worthy out with that shoulder injury. He should be back versus the Giants. But yeah, I mean, this was a tough one. I mean, Chiefs started out, Mahomes with that run on I think it was 2nd or 3rd down, kind of wrecks Cooper Najee, gets the 1st down, and then runs it into the end zone. I mean, he's really having to play Superman ball. 16 of 29, 187 yards, a touchdown. Again, for what he's working with, Dustin, I mean, it's tough. The run game has not been great. 8 carries for 31 yards, 3.9 yards a carry. And then Isaiah Pacheco, 10 carries for 22 yards, 2.2 yards a carry. Like you said, playing a good Philadelphia Eagles team, but you got to play better than that. And that's what they're kind of been trying. They're going to have to lean on is really just getting the run game going, and it just has not got going. Travis Kelce had a good game, and really until the drop that kind of led to the turnover. They're right there on the 6-yard line, throws it right to him at the goal line, tipped up in the air. They take it back. They end up getting points on that drive to kind of seal the deal. Chiefs come down, get the touchdown to Thornton, Triquan Thornton, 2 receptions, 59 yards, the long touchdown, played pretty well. And then Hollywood Brown, 5 receptions for 30 yards. But just not enough offense for this team. I thought the defense played pretty well. I mean, Chris Jones up front. I thought he had a better game today. That big sack by Norman Latta. I don't know if you saw that with Jalen Hurts. Had a huge sack in that game. I think Jalen Hurts will be feeling that. But like I said, I have zero concern. And that may sound crazy. Zero concern for this Kansas City Chiefs squad. Because imagine if the Minnesota Vikings, Justin, was without Justin Jefferson, was without Adam Thielen, and was without Addison for your first 3 weeks. Because that's essentially what the Chiefs are working with. Because you don't have Royals, you don't have Rashee Rice, and then you don't have Worthy. I think if Worthy plays in that game, they win. They're a tip pass away or for punting on 4th down away from winning that game versus the Philadelphia Eagles, because they went to it on 4th and 1 on their own 40, on their own 50, really, or own 40, I think it was. I'd have to look at it, but they didn't get it. They tried to run an outside run with Kareem Hunt, and it did not work. It led to just 3 points for the Eagles. Just basically gave them 3 points. The difference in this game was 3 points. So a lot to like about the Chiefs. They're going in and playing the Giants, but injuries can really kill you. Is there anything else you've kind of seen from the Chiefs that you could look at and say, you know what, this part of the team is a little bit of concern for me if they want to win the division or even just make a playoff run? Or do you think it's really just getting these guys back?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, where you kind of have to get your guys back, but you also got to establish your own. I know this is a pass-heavy league, and you got to get your star receivers involved, but running the ball, it looks like Patrick Mahomes led the team in rushing that day. So if you can't get Kareem Hunt going, I know he's kind of on the other side of his prime right now, but Isaiah Pacheco, not really what he once was, a year or two ago.
Right.
Just I know it's still early in the season, but you got to get him going as well. 31 yards for Kareem Hunt, 22 yards for Pacheco. Both getting a pretty equal workload as well. But Patrick Mahomes leading the rushing category there was 66 yards. Seven carries, quote unquote, but one of them being a touchdown. But Patrick Mahomes being like your lead rusher is kind of not the greatest thing in the world when he's
Yeah, it's
the
concerning for
quarterback
sure.
position. He's supposed to be throwing the ball, and it's hard to throw the ball to aging Travis Kelce. You get Hollywood Brown. Not super consistent. Tyquan Thornton. I don't know too much about him, but other than
Not a
that, you
lot
don't.
on there. Practice squad guy.
Yeah, you don't know too much about really anybody else besides Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, which both did not play in this game. So looking at the defensive side for the Eagles, this would have been the game that what's his name should have got suspended on the defensive line, Jalen Carter. So
Jalen Carter.
if he was suspended, I think this game goes a little differently. You could say that with any team, you lose one of your best players on defense or offense, games go differently. But with that said, I think Chiefs got to fix their run game. I think it will get established at some point. Whether they keep running the ball or if they bring somebody else in to kind of compete, be that third back. I don't know what happens with that, but I think that 3-point difference, I think, is a pretty competitive game, for equal workloads for the running backs. But I think you got to get that run game going a little bit more, and I think it will happen. I don't know what the Chiefs' schedule is looking like upcoming here, but look at the run defenses in these upcoming games and see if you can establish a run going there through those games and kind of get some confidence going for your running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't get a lot easier from here. I mean, obviously you have the Giants, then you got the Ravens, then you got the Jags, then you got the Lions coming up, Washington, you got a couple other teams, Raiders coming up. So again, it gets a little bit lighter than because you're getting some guys back. But yeah, I think Pacheco and Kareem Hunt really have to step it up. That's not, I mean, maybe even going to go get a guy out there. I mean, there's some other backs on these benches that maybe could get a chance. But again, that's an if. But what's in house has to step up. And like you said, like having to go to a Thornton or having to go to a like a Juju Smith a Noah Gray who really hasn't stepped up. He had a good year last year. And then Kelsey at this point is really like a security blanket type guy. He's a guy when you get these other guys back that will get more single looks. And then that's when you, again, are able to have the Kelsey that you want. He had a good game, had some huge catches. He had that big catch on fourth down, all the way down at his ankles and was able to bring it in. Had another one where he stiffs arm Blankenship and went for another like 20 yards, but then just a drop that absolutely pretty much just cost the game. But I thought the defense did pretty well. A little bit on the Eagles because it's more the NFC side for you. I want to talk about. We'll circle back to the Chiefs at the end versus the Giants. But are the Eagles to you? Do they still? I mean, they're getting these games done, and I don't. I don't know if you watched the Cowboys game as well, but does this Eagles team offensively, because they're just not using AJ Brown, they're not using Devontae Smith, is this Eagles team still as dangerous?
Well, just kind of looking at this past game about the Chiefs and Eagles, the Eagles didn't really dominate, the total yards. They only had 216 total yards opposed to the Chiefs having 294. So they didn't really dominate that. Passing yards, they only had 94 passing yards in that game, opposed to 173 for Mahomes. Rushing yards is a little more even, 122 to 121, but yards per play, the Chiefs really dominated that with 5.2. So it's kind of like, you're playing good team against good team. So you're going to have more equal, stats going into that team stats. But, the Eagles, I saw them play against Dallas that opening week. And, both teams are pretty, I don't know, equal there too, competitive, whatever you want to say. But I don't know. Eagles teams, I want to see them play more good teams. I don't know what. Let me take a look at what their schedule is looking like here, real quick.
Yeah,
I
for
want
the
to
Eagles,
see.
it's pretty tough.
Yeah, so Rams, Buccaneers, Broncos, they got a pretty tough schedule coming up here as
Yeah,
well. And then the back half of the season too, they got Packers, Lions, Cowboys again, Chargers, the Bills towards the end of the season, Commanders at the end of the season. So they got
yeah.
a tough schedule coming up here as well. So, if they can kind of compete with those good teams as well, maybe I see the Eagles kind of competing for a wild card spot, honestly. I don't see them getting top seed. I don't know if they'll get second seed, but I think they're kind of competing for a third seed right now. And it's not like I watch the Eagles on a daily basis or anything. That's just kind of my take on that. But
Yeah.
it's a tough schedule, man. It's a tough schedule for them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you have the teams like the Buccaneers. That matchup could be huge, and it's in Tampa, a team that the Eagles usually struggle with. That could be a tough matchup because, like you said, like every single game. I mean, obviously they'll have the Giants in between there. They'll have some other teams. And the Eagles are a good team, but I just don't know if you can win games with Jalen Hurts, 15 of 22, 101 yards, barely passing for 100 yards, and you're just relying on Saquon Barkley in the tush push to just be heavily on your back and your defense to kind of just carry. But this is still a good team. But I just don't know if they can win and really, again, win this many games like they did last year at this style of play. Basically, where you're giving A.J. Brown 5 receptions for 27 yards. And I know Devontae Smith, he had 4 receptions for 53 yards, but one of them was like a 30 to 40-yard pass that kind of was able to get them on like the 3 or 4-yard line. They ran the tush push, were able to take the lead. But like this style of play, I don't think will sustain. Like you said, you're going up against teams like Packers, and you're going up against some of these teams in the NFC. Let's just move on real quick from the Eagles and some of these other NFC teams as a lot of injuries going around. I mean, we got the 49ers with Brock Purdy. We got some other quarterbacks banged up. Joe Burrow, he looks like he's pretty much going to be done for the season. He won't be coming back for another 3 to 4 months. Your guys, the Minnesota Vikings, though, what's kind of been going on? I mean, we got a lot of injuries. Aaron Jones just put on injury reserve. They signed a couple of guys. You can get into that. And then your quarterback, the young quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, is going to be replaced with you. I mean, Carson Wentz. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say you. There's just resemblance there. But he's going to be replaced with Carson Wentz. what is kind of the talk? Are you nervous? Are you worried about this? I mean, what is your level of concern right now bringing in a former Chiefs quarterback, Carson Wentz?
Yeah, let's start with the quarterback position and JJ McCarthy because I know everybody kind of wants to hear about that, get the opinion on that. It's a tough starting outing for JJ McCarthy where he's thrown almost more picks than he has touchdowns. I think they're pretty much equal. He has 3 touchdowns, 3 picks in the first 2 games of the season, and it's just kind of tough to see JJ McCarthy kind of go through that. Bo Nix had a rough start to the season last year. Jaden Daniels had a rough start of the season last year as well. So, Vikings fans are turning on JJ McCarthy pretty quick, which kind of is tough to see. But, with him being injured with his ankle, I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise a little bit. I don't know if JJ McCarthy just isn't ready yet, but with a guy that is more experienced, like Carson Wentz coming in, I'm kind of excited to see what he can bring to the Vikings in the offense. Not that he's had the full offseason with the Vikings to really learn the playbook, get the chemistry down, but what can be worse than JJ had the last 2 games? Carson Wentz isn't the same guy as he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, but it's something that could probably bring life back into this Vikings offense. I think that will be really fun to watch, I think. So starting with the Bengals, they don't have a great defense. Then we go overseas for 2 weeks and then we get a bye week. So hopefully JJ can heal up in those couple weeks. And, it's something that you want him to play and develop because, a lot of Vikings fans on Twitter were kind of upset about JJ McCarthy's play and rightfully so. But, I saw this post saying everybody wants to see a quarterback, everybody wants to see a young quarterback play until it's time for them to play and develop, and have these struggles. So it just kind of sucks with JJ McCarthy. But going against the other injuries too, Aaron Jones, hamstring on IR at least 4 weeks. Blake Cashman, you lost him in the first week of the season with a hamstring injury. Ryan Kelly, concussion. Andrew Van Ginkel, another concussion for Jeff Okuda. All these injuries are kind of piling up, and it's guys that are usually injury prone coming into this thing that Kwesi, he kind of takes a flyer on with these injury prone guys. And it's the last couple guys I kind of mentioned with Ryan Kelly, Aaron Jones, Jeff Okuda, Aaron Jones. I think I just had him, but just some guys that are injury prone, and that's kind of the risk reward you have with them. Good players, but when they're not healthy, they're not giving you anything on the field. So, and that kind of sucks. You got to play your backups, but Jordan Addison being back week 3, after the Bengals game, I think will be a huge help. But it's kind of give and take. Hopefully it's a tale of 2 halves for the Minnesota Vikings where they kind of play poorly, have injuries, but kind of get back on their feet, second half of the season and see what magic we can make of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, a couple of things. I mean, Carson Wentz, he's been around a while. I still think he can do the job these upcoming weeks for the Vikings as I kind of look at their schedule. Obviously, you guys brought in like Cam Akers to kind of help out the running back position because you're losing Jones, you're losing Chandler, and then like you said, a lot of injuries on the offensive line. Van Dinkel out, but I think you guys will be okay. I mean, you got the Bengals, you got the Browns. You have the Steelers coming up, and then you have the bye week. And again, and this is the thing with me, and I want to ask you this. I brought this up with someone else that's been on the pod, my brother Zarek, also a big Vikings fan. So if Carson Wentz, and I would expect you guys to win these upcoming games, Bengals, you got the Steelers, then you got the Browns. I would expect you to win those games. If he wins those next 3 games, do you throw JJ McCarthy back out there? Say if JJ McCarthy sits out those games. Do you throw JJ McCarthy back out there versus the Chargers, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Ravens?
I think there's 2
injury,
sides to
that
this.
guy.
Yeah, there's 2 sides of this. You can either, play your best player available. Let's say Carson Wentz goes 3-0 these next 3 games. Then that bye week comes around and you're good. But then you play with the rest of the season, right? And Carson Wentz, maybe it's a magic carpet ride for the backup quarterback, and JJ McCarthy just sits another year and develops, and kind of gets more of those practice reps that he didn't get last year. Or Carson Wentz can go 3-0, 1-2, 2-1, whatever in these next 3 games. And then you throw
Mhm.
JJ McCarthy back out there to actually develop as a quarterback. Going against Brian Flores' defense all training camp is probably one of the hardest defenses you could probably go against in your young professional career. And against the Eagles, tough defense. The Lions are a scrappy team. You got some other harder teams in there too. The Packers are coming up, but I think it would be a good thing for JJ McCarthy to kind of develop. You're kind of in a win now mode too. These 1 to 2 years this year and possibly next year. I get that you want to win as many games as possible, but me personally, I feel like you kind of have to play your best player if you want to win, go in the playoffs and stuff like that. I know Carson Wentz is injury prone, but I think if Carson gets hurt, I think JJ McCarthy stepping in wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think he'd be a really good backup. They're both really good backup worthy quarterbacks. So I think there's really no wrong answer to this, if I'm really being honest. And
Yeah.
me personally, I think you got to play your best player available.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing. Obviously, if you go 3-0 in these games, you still have a guy who's super young. Carson Wentz comes out and plays well. It's basically like what your running back last year. You're like, get healthy, JJ, develop. If not, if Carson Wentz even wins these games and he kind of just looks like he's playing backup ball and it's not kind of like what Sam Darnold was doing last year. Because let's be honest, I don't think Sam Darnold last year was just playing like, let's just get the ball. Like, I'm here to just not make a turnover because I know like the real quarterback is sitting over there. He's just hurt. No, he was out there slinging that thing. So if Carson Wentz can kind of, and I kind of joked about it with Drew, who's on the podcast last week, who's on, of course, 612 Vikings. I was like, hey, Carson Wentz is going to come in, this year and have a Case Keenum like season. Hopefully, again, you are able, guys, to just kind of pick yourself up, get healthy. Hopefully, you can carry the ship until JJ comes back because you have the Bengals this week. And don't, like you said, don't have a great defense. We'll get your game prediction here in just a minute. But real quick, Dustin, do you have 3 games this week that you're looking forward to watch this weekend? Not a lot of great games. What are the 3 games you're looking forward to watch or you have ready to go on the TV?
Yeah, let's take a look here. I mean, if the quarterbacks weren't hurt, Bengals Vikings would have been cinema to watch. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase coming to U.S. Bank Stadium for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
JJ McCarthy, if he would have played well these past 2 games, that would have been interesting. With Justin Jefferson, but right now I think Raiders Commanders is one of them. A sneaky underrated game. I think people are writing off the Raiders a lot this year, and I personally think that they're kind of a dark horse team. They're not gonna play. They're not one of the better teams in the NFL, obviously. But Raiders Commanders, I think, is a really sneaky game for a noon game. I feel like that could have been a really good Sunday night football game. Geno Smith not playing super great these past 2 games, but I personally think that's a fun game to watch. Rams Eagles, a rematch of last year's NFC divisional round. Let's see, what else do we got here? Let's go with Broncos Chargers, good divisional matchup. And then I think Monday Night Football, Lions Ravens. Probably the best matchup of the weekend. On Monday night, obviously, but I think those are probably the best teams to go at it this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some good games here, not a lot. Like, I'm still kind of intrigued. The Bengals Vikings. I don't want to see what Carson Wentz does. I've always been a big Carson Wentz guy. But I'm intrigued, of course, the Eagles Rams. I think that one's going to be good. I think the Rams really gave the Eagles the best run of their money last year. Had the best chance to beat them in the playoffs. So Rams Eagles is one of them. Obviously, Chiefs Giants. I want to see the Chiefs bounce back. I'll get you your game prediction on that one. And then Ravens Lions is definitely going to be the other one on Monday Night Football. Ravens Lions, as the ESPN Spanish guy likes to say, Monday night.
Monday night.
Yeah, of course we got to get the Monday night Ravens Lions. I think that'll be good because the Chiefs obviously follow up the Lions this next week. Let's get your quick game prediction for the Minnesota Vikings, and then what can the Chiefs do to bounce back versus the Giants on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, so for Vikings Bengals, I think this game is going to be somewhat similar to the last two games combined. I don't think that it's going to be an absolute shutout where, we don't score any touchdowns, but
Mhm.
uh, I don't think that Carson Wentz really lights it up either. I mean, he's probably your best option at quarterback as of right now, but I don't know, kind of a lower scoring game, 14-17, 21-17, something along those lines where, maybe you're leaning on the ground game a little more with newly acquired Cam Akers and Jordan Mason. Other
Yeah.
than that, I think it'll be a low scoring game. Unless Jake Browning and Jamar Chase just absolutely go off, which, anything can freaking happen at this point. But Chiefs Giants. I think, with the Giants playing pretty scrappy against the Cowboys this past week, I think is kind of eyebrow raising, to say the least. They to compete with the Cowboys, but I think Chiefs win this game pretty convincingly. I think it's a game that is pretty easy on your schedule. It's probably one of the easier games on your schedule
Right.
as of right now. So I think it's a game that you got to win pretty convincingly without Rashee Rice, and maybe you get Xavier Worthy back. If he can practice
Yeah.
some more this week and get him back for this game, I think you guys win by at least 10 plus.
Yeah, that's a game I would like to see them win by 10 plus. They should get Xavier Worthy back. I think that'll help a lot. Um, and then in a couple weeks you'll have um, Worthy back, or you'll have Rice back. But if they can get Worthy back for this game, I think they'll be okay. Then for the Vikings, I think the Vikings get it done. I think they're going to be all over Browning. I think they're going to be all over Browning the way you guys are able to get off their quarterback. I think you guys win that. This is kind of the Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase. This will really prove. This is the game, and I talked to Zarek about this. Obviously, um, you have two backup quarterbacks. Who's ever the guy that is able to have the better game in this? Because obviously Joe Burrow is the better quarterback. In years past, what the Vikings compared to what the Vikings have had, and everyone wants to kind of point to Jamar Chase. You're in my fantasy football league group chat, the fantasy football league. A lot of people want to point to Jamar Chase as being the best wide receiver in the league, even though what Justin Jefferson has done these last couple of years. So it'll be really interesting this game to see who has the better game, working with two lesser quarterbacks. It's kind of evened out now, so this should be interesting. But I have the Vikings winning this one. I'm going to go 21 13 Vikings. And then for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to go 23 I'll go 23-14 Kansas City. What are your score predictions for this game? These two games.
Yeah, like I said, I think Vikings and Bengals will probably be low scoring, so probably 21-17, 14-17, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I think the Vikings do get it done. I think they are the better team overall than the Bengals, better
Right.
defense. I still think that the Vikings have a better offense because you have the better receiver in Justin Jefferson, and that's not me just being biased, but I think that they do have the better receiver and better weapons on that offense. But Chiefs Giants, like I said, I think they win by 10 plus points. So I think it'll go Chiefs 24. We'll go Giants 14. I think Giants
Okay.
get two
24.
tutties.
Yeah, 24-14. That'll absolutely get it done for this week of the TBT podcast, going over all the games, going everything. I will be back, obviously, Thursdays, guys, to go over the schedule, the game predictions for every single game, talk more about this Giants game with you guys. But Dustin, tell everyone where they can find you. Obviously, they drew on here last week, but tell everyone to find you. We're on an NFL / Vikings podcast. You guys go over Vikings news and a little bit of the NFL, of course. You've got some great guests on there, like Paul Allen and some other Minnesota Vikings. So if we have any fans that like hearing great podcasts, like hearing stories, and even just want to hear about the NFC North in general, go check it out. Dustin, where can everyone find you, on TikTok or on YouTube?
Yeah, so I mostly do Vikings TikTok content. That will be that Vikings fan, all one word. I'll pop up, if you search for that. And then me and Drew, aka Skull TV, we do a podcast together. 612 Vikings. We talk anything and everything Minnesota Vikings related. And yeah, that's where you guys can find me. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin, we appreciate you being on here for this episode of the TPT podcast. Guys, we will see you guys next time on the TPT podcast.